Welcome to 28 Days and Beyond.
The show where we talk about our history, our heritage, and our culture.
I'm Amari.
I'm Charisma. Welcome.
Are you a hard worker?
Yes.
Yeah. Do you value hard work?
Yes.
That's good.
Do you?
Absolutely not.
No?
No.
You're not a hard worker?
I mean, listen, my ancestors did enough work for the next 8 or 9 generations to take off.
I cannot argue with you there.
You know what I mean? So I'm like, hey, I got calluses on my brain though. I don't do all that other stuff.
So no hard labor?
Not for me. But the reason that I'm asking is because, we live in a time where the excessive work is glorified.
Yes.
Everybody's a hustler. Everybody's always on their grind. The work don't stop, can't stop. Well, it's like Puffy back in the day, right? Can't stop. Well, what do you feel about that?
Sorry, I had to do
Yeah, there you go.
the
Take that,
puffy
take that.
dance. I think there is definitely value in hard work, but there's also value in not overworking yourself. And
How do you determine the line?
Well, I think it's a matter of knowing yourself and knowing your body. If you're going to work and you're showing up and you're exhausted, mentally drained, you're fatigued, you find yourself getting sick more often, all of those things are indications that maybe you should get some extra rest. So I think it's different for every person, but I do feel like what you said is true. It's glorified. You see people with all the taglines like hustle harder, and Beyonce has 24 hours a day. I'm sure you've heard that little saying.
She does.
I mean, she also has a huge team, but I digress.
A lot of people always try to detract from Beyonce, though.
No, that wasn't a dig for her. But I feel like people will do things where they're comparing themselves to people. If you're one person and you're a one-person entity, you can't compare yourself to somebody who's a mega international superstar who has an entire team that's also helping her in those areas. So that's what I mean. And I think that's to the point of what we were talking about that kind of fits in, because I think people's glorifying this idea of hard work has a lot to do with them comparing themselves to other people.
Yeah.
So
one of the things that I think is we talk about wellness on the show a lot, and it's also a conversation that's happening in society more often. People are talking about wellness. When it comes to this side, I guess what they used to call it a work-life balance, right? That is not really an area where people sort of make that immediate connection, though. They feel like part of their wellness, or is being able to throw themselves into the work they do. Right. So, that doesn't really make sense to me, but that's certainly something that we often see. Today we are joined by Latreice Branson, who is, a Renaissance woman if there ever was one, and she has a very unique approach to this idea, what she calls radical acts of wellness. So we'll be talking about this and so much more when we come back on 28 Days and Beyond. We're back with more 28 Days and Beyond, joined now by the illustrious, the illuminating,
keep going with the
Latreice
alliteration.
Branson, what's up?
No, it's supposed to be 3.
I'm good, I'm well. It's good to be
Sam.
here.
We're so
How
glad
are you
to
all
have
today?
you. Yeah. So you are, a laundry list of things, including a singer, a musician, a visual artist, a photographer, so on and so forth. We can go on down the list.
He's like, no, keep going.
No, I could, but this is a short segment. And the reason that I'm saying, though, is like, to be able to have multiple talents that you give yourself to, how do you find this balance? How do you not feel the need to be overworked, or, you see what I'm saying? How do you resist that urge?
I feel the need to overwork all the time.
Oh, words, okay.
But that is why the need for rest has to overwhelm that need. And the need for rest came on. And I think most of us don't realize how much rest we really need to maintain productivity until something happens to our health.
Yep.
And that's why I speak very often about the exhaustion complex, which is taking this pride in overworking. And I was a young achiever, a young high achiever, and I took pride in it. And so when my health did not allow me to continue to achieve at the same rate, I became depressed. Then depression led to seeing a therapist. And by the time I saw this therapist, I was diagnosed with about 3 different things. Bipolar disorder, multiple personality disorder, and something else that I don't even remember at this point. But after about 5 years of this, I was on at least 5 medications. And I couldn't even remember why they kept adding medications on, other than I would cry in therapy. So we're going to give you something for that.
Wow.
For crying in therapy?
Yes,
Is
you
it-
can get more medication because you cry.
In question, because I'm not, you know, for the folks out there that are
Yeah.
watching, you know, therapy is presented to most of us as a place where you're safe to let down your guard and to let, you know, those feelings flow. And it sounds like from your experience that was not necessarily what happened, or you were able to let go, but then people diagnosed you with things once you were able to fully share how you were feeling?
How much do we really let go to a stranger that keeps notes?
I mean, especially
how
when
long
they keep
will we do that?
diagnosing you with things.
How much of our truth are we going to really give to this stranger?
But this is interesting that you're saying this, because on the show we've talked about this before, right? And especially people come on celebrating the idea of going to therapy.
And advocating for therapy.
And I think you're raising some concern. So I mean, you know, what are your views on this?
My views on it is that I know for me, I was going to therapy for several years. Had to go because without my therapist, I could not get my medication. And a lot of programs will not even treat you for a mental illness as simple as actual depression without you also seeing this therapist who's keeping these notes. And I realized that most often I was still trying to structure a way of telling the truth to this person without getting medicated, or in my case, also 302. It's also experiencing things that I may deal with as a black woman to a white therapist who then says, oh yes, I can imagine. And I say, no, you cannot.
can't.
No, you
Let's just not use that language
Yeah.
with me, because you
Right,
cannot.
'cause you can't.
You can ask me more questions about it, but let's not do that. I also began to feel like I was talking to this stranger about people in my family and in my life who I would not have the same conversation with. So my radical adventures in wellness came out of saying I can no longer be this consistently, even mentally exhausted woman. So I had to free myself through conversation. So these conversations I have been having with friends and family, even if it means their discomfort, so I could become truly free.
Wow.
And that's why therapy was no longer an option for me.
That's really interesting.
Yeah, it's very
That's
interesting.
really interesting.
So that same radical approach also meant to deal with depression. Most people that have depression may also be dealing with a physical illness, especially if it's undiagnosed or improperly diagnosed. So a lot of my self-hatred came from the fact that I hated my legs. Although I was improperly diagnosed, it wasn't my legs that was the problem, it was my spine.
Wow.
Then I realized, oh, okay, I have osteoarthritis throughout my whole spine. And how long did I have that? Something improperly diagnosed that made me hate my legs so much that I would beat them.
Wow.
So I
Well,
had to use these same legs radically to start going into nature and hiking.
Wow. We definitely want to hear more about nature and hiking, and just
Yeah.
your journey is so interesting. So we definitely want to hear more, but we have to take a break. So we'll be back with more 28 Days and Beyond right after this. Welcome back to 28 Days and Beyond. We are still here with Latreice Branson. So before the break, you were talking about how misdiagnosis, therapy, and a number of other things led to you hiking. So can you talk about that
Yes.
journey? I mean, that's so amazing.
One of the other things that I do is I'm a disability advocate.
Okay.
And I want to advocate on behalf of those that have illness, that have disabilities, whose ability does not match even what they feel their degrees are, where their ability doesn't match what they just physically want to do.
Yeah.
And so many people, once their health may go through things, their ability to work changes. But the ability to work doesn't mean you can't create it.
Right.
And that was what first started with me creating jam sessions. Was I wasn't leaving the house. So I invited people to my house until we outgrew my house. When I couldn't do the jam sessions, I had to stop them very radically and do nothing so that I could work on my health. And one woman came to me and she said, but I know you are carrying the whole community on your shoulders. And I said, I will not. I said, I think that's something that we, especially as women, tend to do far too much.
And black women.
And that's why black
specifically.
women are commonly diagnosed with heart disease to the point of death. And I always say, I don't think it's the organ that fails, it's the spirit that's dead.
Yeah.
So hiking for me was to get close to the Creator. And all around us are trees and trails, especially in Pennsylvania, that I've known people that's like, I hate the city, but they won't go to the Wissahickon. I can't stand the city, but they don't go to Pennypack.
There's so many parks, so much nature.
And one of the things that happens when the mind is overworked, that sometimes you have to allow yourself to become so quiet that everything else around you becomes a little more interesting. To become quiet in the woods and in nature means that I can hear how my feet sound on leaves and how loud I really am. But you get to hear how soft the sound is of a squirrel. And all these medications caused me to not know how to drive without a GPS. I was not sleeping. I had insomnia. I would forget a lot, and my attention was really off. So to be in nature, if I would hear a sound, I would train myself to find it quickly. The other thing about being in nature with osteoarthritis is that your body never hits the same place twice in nature. If we walk down the street, we are pretty linear in the way that we walk, which usually hurts the body. So to be in nature causes you to constantly have to think outside of yourself. Where am I stepping? Where am I walking? And I would invite other people as a radical act of their wellness. Most recently, I knew a young lady that was in an abusive relationship to the point of them both fighting each other to blows. And I told her, I said, you have an interesting relationship with pain. Because it wasn't just this man starting this fight. She enjoyed fighting. So I said, we have to change the pain signal. You're coming to the gym with me. Let's go to the gym. And we're going to let your body exercise until it feels pain. Because exercise is painful. I don't know if anybody runs, anybody's played volleyball, basketball. Oh, it's painful. But you do it because it's also increasing these endorphins and all these things are released in you. And after this workout, I realized that the first radical act I made was making sure I had a gym membership where I could bring someone for free.
So something interesting that I'm hearing you say over and over again is radical wellness. But what you're saying to me doesn't really sound radical. It sounds very rational. It sounds like something that a lot more people should be doing. So how are you able to share your message, which you deem radical, but makes all the sense in the world to me, with other people?
If I titled what I do, The Rational Approach to Wellness, most people would not come and listen to it.
This is true.
So when I say I'm going to talk about radical adventures in wellness, I'm talking about this to teachers. And I train teachers on taking care of their personal wellness by identifying with themselves as a student. If you came to work, did you eat today? Oh, okay. How do you feel when you don't eat? Tired, a little irritable. You have a headache. Do you know most of your students didn't eat today? They're tired. They have headaches. How's your home life? Did someone yell at you before you left the house for something small? Consider if that child had that same experience. So they may not be ready to listen to you as much as you don't want to listen to them. But consider, what teacher did you know was stressed when you were a kid? We all remember that. Are you that to someone else? So the radical thing is saying, teacher, become the student you were again. I also do these trainings with cancer doctors. How do you create self-care when you're in the business of caring for others? You know, there's so many doctors that won't even take an Advil, but they'll tell you to get chemo. So how are you going to care for yourself? How do you still get rest in a business that may have a 20-hour shift? And we were talking earlier how some people have leave and just won't use it because I got work to do. I got to start another job. I got to create another business because I got to build an empire. I got to do all of this. But even as a person who's been a Christian all my life, I had been in church and never even heard a message on rest.
Wow.
But Jesus would sleep all the time.
I mean, I wish we could stay here and talk with Latreice all day because you have so much wisdom, and I really thank you for coming and sharing your story. Unfortunately, we're out of time, but hopefully we can get you back next season.
I'd love to. Thanks for having me.
Thank you.
We'll be back with more 28 Days and Beyond right after this.
And we're back with 28 Days and Beyond. Latreice is easily one of my favorite people in the city. You see why.
I can absolutely see why.
One of the things I really appreciate is that every conversation with her is just like, dang, she really be thinking about this stuff. You know what I'm saying? What did you take away?
A few things. One, I need to start hiking again and getting in nature more. I mean, I love nature. My friends or people that haven't known me for as long as maybe some other people always tease me because they're like, how did I not know you were a hippie? Because I just love being outside. I love taking my shoes off and feeling grass on my feet. So that was one of the things. And then also, you know, what she said about taking inventory about how you're feeling and not just doing all this work until you're exhausted and it leads to all these other issues. That happened to me. I was perfectly healthy and then I wasn't.
All of a sudden.
All of a sudden. And, you know, that was a journey that I learned a lot from. But if you can prevent yourself from getting sick by overworking yourself, take the time to rest. It doesn't mean you're not working hard enough or doing enough. You got to take care of yourself. So.
You know, one of the things that was eye-opening, if you will, was part of this radical acts of wellness is
Yes.
also, I mean, an alternative approach therapy. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So what I kind of appreciated is it's a lot more active. Like you are an active participant or proponent of your
Right.
wellness, as opposed to just saying simply, I'm going to go see a therapist. It's
Right.
actually getting up and, you know, taking some sort of physical action that's associated with that.
Yeah.
I thought that was really powerful.
I thought it was too. And something else she said that I listened to was, you know, therapy wasn't right for her. So we're not telling people either way, like, don't do therapy, do therapy. You have to find what works for you
Yeah.
and then rock out with it.
And rock out with it.
So that's
That's
I mean,
it.
that's what we're trying to do here.
I mean, you know, I appreciate that we talk about wellness
Yes.
on this show, and everybody who comes has a different approach to it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I think it's really important, and I think it'll serve us and our viewers well.
Yes, I do too.
That's
You going
what's
on a hike with me or
Yo,
what?
I'll do it, man. The Wizard Hick, right around the, you know, right around the corner from the crib. It'll be going down.
All right.
This has been another episode of 28 Days and Beyond.
Where we talk about our history, our heritage, and our culture. We'll see you next time.
Peace.